Welcome back, golf fans. Hope everyone had a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. I also hope you all enjoyed the longest break of the PGA Tour season, as there won't be one for a while. That's right. We're set for, I think it's 34 straight weeks of PGA Tour, 38 events. We got some weeks where we're going to have multiple events here, but I believe it's 34 straight weeks taking us to the Tour Championship in August. Dane, are you ready?
Yeah, so ready. I was talking to you a couple weeks ago in our Discord saying how I would be excited again when we got to January. So I am. I'm ready to go, ready for some golf again. We get the late afternoon through the evening of golf here for the next couple weeks, and let's get the 2023 season rolling.
Hawaii
I guess it's already rolling, technically.
and I hear you by getting petered out by the end of the fall season. I mean, just some of the fields that we get aren't great. There's just by the time you get to Christmas, we're kind of just hoping, especially as content providers, we're just kind of hoping for that break to come fast, because it's the only break of the year. Like I said, it's 34 straight weeks now of putting together content, and we're really glad to be back doing videos. This is something that we're planning to do each and every week. It's either going to be like a Monday afternoon, Monday evening. Is kind of what our goal is, and then if that doesn't work out, it's going to be Tuesday. And Tuesday sometimes works nice because we do get more information in. Dane and I are both working with Fanshare Sports. We have through, I believe it was halfway through last year, something like that, where we kind of took over the ownership model and the curation of all the content. So we're super excited there. And this season's show, the weekly preview show that we're going to do here, is actually brought to you by Fanshare Sports. Smart data for winning lineups. Fanshare Sports, for those of you that are maybe new to Fanshare, never heard of it, it's a DFS site that curates data from around the industry. So what we do is on Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and even into Wednesday, we're looking at all the articles, videos, social media mentions, podcasts, and more. We're marking those down as tags. Those tags turn into sentiment, which then goes into the ownership projection model. There's a lot more into it, obviously, like course history, current form, statistics, and that sort of stuff. But the curated content is huge and goes together each and every week to give you those ownership projections that you will see on site. At Fanshare, there's also a wide range of research tools to help you each week, including strokes gain data and research, fantasy scoring data and research, course history, course suitability rankings, multitude of articles, a lineup optimizer. I'm going to go over that here in a little bit as well, and much more. And again, if you're new to Fanshare Sports, you can sign up using promo code Jaeger, and you're going to get 20% off your subscription. And stay tuned to our YouTube channel that you're on right now watching this video, as we're going to have more videos in the future, kind of going over maybe some GPP plays, looking at some leverage based off of those ownership projections, as well as maybe some course previews. And that sort of stuff, and then also some tutorial videos going over Fanshare's optimizer and that sort of stuff as well. With that, let's just get right into this week here. I'm going to go over what we're planning on doing, is looking at the cheat sheet, looking at the tournament preview, the course preview, some of our favorite stats, and then kind of looking at this week. We're trying something a little different rather than going range by range. We really want to talk about our builds and how the pricing of the week kind of goes together and which way we are going to build, and then we're going to give you our picks kind of from there. So with that, I'm going to bring up the cheat sheet here. As you can see, we've got the Tournament of Champions in Hawaii, Sentry Tournament of Champions, Kapalua. It's a Plantation Course, kicks off the new year. It's an invite-only, no-cut event. It includes all of last year's winners, as well as those who qualified for the FedEx Cup Playoff Tour Championship, so that is possibly another 30 players. This year's field includes 39 players. Rory, I believe, is the only golfer who was qualified for this event but is not in the field. I believe he's doing DP World Tour to kick off his 2023 calendar season. The field also has some extra incentive this week to show up for. That's why we have such a good field, is because this is a new elevated event on tour. It has a $15 million purse. So for DFS purposes, the no-cut event also means that all 39 players are going to play 4 rounds. Add to that the soft pricing, especially on DraftKings, and you're going to have yourself a prime setup for Stars and Scrubs build. We're going to talk about that here in a little bit as well. I guess to start things off, I'm actually interested in which way you're leaning early in the week here. It's Tuesday afternoon on your lineup construction for this no-cut event.
Yeah, like you said, a lot of when it comes to these events, a lot goes towards the Stars and Scrubs. There's actually A lot of guys, though, that I like in the low 8K range. So I might try to get a little different by playing a little bit more of a balanced build. I do think people will grab, a couple in that high 9, low 10K range. You mentioned it. That the pricing is just so soft.
It's crazy.
You can fit 2, even 3 of these guys in lineups and not feel too bad about it when you're getting 4 rounds out of everybody. So I think that's the approach that a lot are going to take. So going a little more balanced, I think this week will be contrarian.
Yeah, I agree with you there. This is like super soft pricing, especially they gave Rory a price and he was the most expensive in the field. With him out now, it's like Scotty Scheffler at 10.3, John Rahm at 10,000, the only 2 over 10K. You can easily put those 2 together and make a very comfortable lineup. So Stars and Scrubs, I agree with you, is probably going to be the highest owned route this week. So that's where I kind of feeling the most comfortable, and I'm kind of grouping the top tier of like 9,500 and up, like Shoffley and up, when I'm looking at the tiers here, even the 9K and up, because there's only in that 9K and up range, there's only golfers. So that's kind of the way I'm looking at it there. So I'm definitely on board with the Stars and Scrubs, but I hear you. I'm doing 20 max this week. I'm definitely going to mix in probably at least 50% of my lineups are probably going to be balanced, because I think there's possibly going to be some leverage, like you said, in going with a balanced lineup, because it is so easy to build your Stars and Scrubs lineup this week. So before we move on into our picks, now that we've done that, one of the big key factors here at this course, the Plantation Course, and we're going to go over the course here in a minute, is the weather. We see some big variance in the winning scores over the years. I'm going to bring up the course history here. Last year we had Cameron Smith win minus 34, 3 players over minus 30. That's crazy to shoot. Matt Jones, a casual, minus 32, and doesn't even get into a playoff in this event. Crazy. And then we've also seen back in 2020, we had quite a bit of wind throughout the week, and Justin Thomas won with minus 14. So that is a 20 stroke spread. And multiple times we've seen scores in the teens as well as scores in the 30s. So there's a lot of variance here, and it comes down to weather. So let's have a quick look at that. Thursday and Friday actually look quite calm. Sustained winds of 10 to up to 12 mile an hour on Friday afternoon. Really not that much in terms of wind gusts either, so there's not really going to be a whole lot of gusts. It doesn't look like. We're going to want to check this again tomorrow night before lineup lock for sure, but as of now there's no tee time wave that I'm especially looking at, and that also gets diminished a little bit with a no cut event because they're all teeing off a lot closer together. It's not like a full field event where you've got half the field teeing off and then finishing their rounds and then the other half teeing off as well. So I'm not really looking at that. Saturday and Sunday look pretty good as well. Saturday's the highest winds, topping out at like 14, but I think we're going to see another event where we're looking at a winner of minus 25 to minus 35. What are your thoughts there on the weather and stuff?
Yeah, looks like it's going to be just a birdie fest again.
Yep.
That's fine. I know, when we see these like every single week or something, it gets a little annoying. But to start the year, some of these guys might not be in tip-top form, of course, with the layoff and things. So the easier course is all right to me here, but will be a shootout. And that also plays into the, Stars and Scrubs a little bit more. But even though everybody's getting 4 rounds, you need them to put up low scores. So that might fall in back to the balance build to where I can talk myself into that a little bit more. Because some of these low guys, that maybe haven't seen the course, they might come out a little flat day 1, day 2. They'll still be here for all 4 rounds, but you're going to need 4 low ones from all of your guys if you want to have a chance to compete in the GPP.
That's like minus 7, minus 8 every day to compete. Like that's a lot of birdies. So it's nice because the players that maybe aren't in form, haven't played since November, maybe had a month off or more, spend some time with their families and stuff. This is maybe like a warm-up to get into the Sony Open next week, and then, rolling into the season as we head into Masters kind of in April. Whereas other guys may be coming in with a little bit better form. We don't really know, and that kind of adds a little bit of the intrigue, I guess, a little bit of the challenge to this event is, yes, there's going to be a lot of birdies, but sometimes we get some of these big players that just aren't making birdies early on. So there's definitely, as always, there's a lot of luck. There's a lot of variance in PGA, but it's all about getting yourself set up in the right position. So let's talk about the Plantation Course here for a minute before we get into our picks and kind of talk about some stats and some things that we're looking at. So it's hosted this event since 1999 here at the Plantation Course. It's had the different names throughout the seasons. But Sentry is the main key one this year. It's a par 73, stretches out almost to 7,600 yards in the scorecard. It's one of, I believe, only 3 par 73s, maybe only 2 par 73s on tour. It's always ranked as one of the easiest in terms of average scoring. Very wide and forgiving fairways combined with very large Bermuda greens. The course is long, but the shorter, you can't just exclude the shorter hitters at this course. There is a lot of undulation on the fairways, as you can see kind of in this picture. If you hit it in the right spots, you can get a lot of runouts. So guys that are, only averaging 280, 290 off the tee are going to stretch some drives out 320 to 340 this week because of some of those undulated fairways and stuff like that. That undulation also carries over into those very large greens, and that's what makes it very difficult. Is you can't just hit the greens this week. You can't just rely on, say, greens in regulation, because there could be a lot of 3-putting here with the very large undulated greens. It's about hitting it in the right spot to give yourself those opportunities for birdies, which you're going to need. So strokes gained approach, I guess, and driving distance are 2 that are very top of my list this week. I'm also looking at proximity long irons, opportunities gained. Obviously, that's something that we always peek at over on Fantasy National, birdie or better percentage, and strokes gained putting on Bermuda. When looking at the model on my sheet this week, on our sheet, one thing I have done to start the year is all these stats that you're going to see in the green section, that is now 90% on the new season. So that is the fall season that we just went through, 9 events. Not counting the Hero Challenge or that QBE shootout, but 9 events, so it's 90% weighted on that, and then 10% on last year. As we get closer to the Masters, it's probably going to be closer to 98% and 2%. I always just want that little bit of last season in there. So if you're looking at that, that's how I have it here. These are the weights up here in the top in the orange that I have on each individual stat this week. Is there anything that I don't have highlighted or anything you want to highlight that you're really, really concentrating on this week in terms of stats for this course?
On mute. Here we go. No, I think you hit on it pretty well there.
Pretty straightforward.
I said earlier, it's going to be a birdie fest. Opportunities gained. A lot of it that I'm going to end up looking at, since we don't have as many stats from recent form, which I like to weight a little more than normal, would be course history. I'll probably factor that in a little bit more than usual this week. So some of the, like I said, some of these newcomers that may not have played here very much, I might lower those in my overall ranks for the week.
That makes a lot of sense. I've heard a lot of players talk in interviews, and just looking at some, past interviews and transcripts and stuff like that, players talking about how it's like a creative course. Some players compare it to like going to Augusta, in which you have those wide fairways, but you can't just bomb it anywhere. You really need to place it in the right position to give like I said, to give yourself a shot at the pins on these large greens, because you need to hit the certain tiers. So there's definitely an accuracy part to it, but you need to be creative with a lot of the shots. So bringing those guys into play, one guy that obviously, when you think about creativity, creative shots that does well in courses like that where you really have to use your head, not just straight bomb and gouge, is a Jordan Spieth type. I'll talk about him here in a little bit and his form and stuff, but I definitely agree with you there, that it's not just bombs away and the approach shot. You definitely want a mix of things and some creative. And I don't, like I said in the beginning, I don't think you can just exclude a shorter hitter. What I do in that situation, pretty much anytime we're looking at a longer course, when I'm looking at a shorter hitter who's maybe in good form, I want to see what his long iron approaches are like. So we're going to look at that and that trends as well. So kicking things off, we talked about stars and scrubs. 2 players that stand out for me, and I'm talking, let's just go 9K and up. 2 players that I like building around in this. I wrote one up. One is Patrick Cantlay. Actually, I have 3 in this range that stand out to me. Patrick Cantlay comes in with probably the best form in the field. as well as he's got top fives in 2 of his last 3 here at this course. The other one I really like is Justin Thomas. It's those two kind of grouped together. The fact that they're both under 10K, that's a combination I'm going to have quite a bit of this week. Thomas has won here twice. He's not coming in with great form, so he may, I don't want to say under-owned because we've only got 39 players, but he may be one of the lower-owned guys in the field in the top tier. Now, whether that's true or not, I'm not 100%. He is getting a lot of steam on FanShare. You can see the FanShare tags as of Tuesday afternoon here in the column. He's number 1 in my model. Cantley is. Thomas is number 22, just simply because the form isn't there. So, but he's got top fives in 4 straight, 5 of his last 6, including 2 wins here. He's a guy that can always put up birdies, but it's going to come down to his putter. So we got 2 totally different guys here, both good ball strikers, but Cantley is an extremely good putter, while Thomas is more up and down with his putter. He can have really bad weeks and really good weeks. I kind of like players like that for GPP. Because a lot of people, I think the ownership kind of goes down a little bit because maybe they aren't as trustworthy, but they can spike. They can have those spike weeks where they gain 3 to 5 strokes putting, and they can crush a GPP, even if they're 5% to 10% lower than I'd say a chalk guy in the top tier that doesn't go over. The other guy I'm really looking at, he kind of borderlines this top tier, and it's Matt Fitzpatrick. Hasn't played here before, so he doesn't get that course history narrative, so he's down a little bit in my model. But he, with that added distance that he's had, through last year, he won the U.S. Open longer track. He's done very good in these events with very strong fields. So those are the 3 that I'm built around in the top tier when I'm looking at stars and scrubs, and I'm going to have 2 of the 3 of those in a lot of my lineups. How are you starting things?
Yeah, don't hate that at all. There's I kind of like the range just below that a little bit more. And like you said, Justin Thomas is gaining some steam. He's been great here, of course, been great in Hawaii as a whole. But I just ran the second update for the FanShare, and he's one of the top 2 owned, obviously, that many tags, but over 30%, one of 2 guys, over 30% projected right now. But, that if you love a play, don't let ownership scare you off. I've made that mistake a lot over the course of the last few years. So that's something I'm going to try to get better at this year, that if everything points to a guy just because he's 25% owned, don't get off of him.
No, on the opposite side, you can actually, instead of being scared away of, say, a 25% ownership, you can actually go and just double the ownership and get twice as much of the field or whatever. I like that a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but as far as my favorite ones in this range, 9,400, Colin Morikawa and Xander Schauffele at 9,500 would be 1-2 for me. Obviously, both are going to get ownership. Again, those would be the top 2 for me. If I was going to the very top, I think Scotty Scheffler makes some sense. I think he will come in as the lower owned of this entire top range. And there's not really a reason for that other than he doesn't have great history here. And he's the highest priced when all these other guys have great history and maybe even a little more name value. But I think if I was going to the very top, that's where I would go. I think Tony Finau, he's not showing very high owned right now under a lot of those guys from JT to Morikawa. He's lower projected on than all those guys, but I do think he's going to get some steam through tomorrow night. So we'll see how that updates tomorrow.
He's been so good.
Yeah, he has been, and he rates out very good in the model. It's just the course history really is the only thing holding him back. But yeah, ranks 4th in your current model,
4th overall in the model, and that's with terrible course history. That says a lot about the stats and form.
Yeah, it does. And you mentioned Fitzpatrick. He is showing as the lowest owned from pretty much 8K and up.
I love that.
So I like that call quite a bit. He is a debutant here, looks like. So we'll see how he fares, but I think you can make a case for him for sure in GPPs as a pivot.
I think people's case against him is the fact that he's lost a lot of strokes on approach over his last 3 events. The CJ Cup wasn't bad. He was right about minus 0.2, but he lost almost 10 strokes on approach at the Tour Championship and BMW in the playoffs. Now it is a new season. He's a good putter. I think he can get back on track. Now, one other thing I wanted to mention here, you mentioned Scotty Scheffler at the top. Not only is that nice if he maybe comes in a little bit lower owned, say if these other guys are 30%, 32, 35%, something like that. If Scotty Scheffler comes in at 20 to 25%, I think that's some nice leverage. I think he's on the cusp of, we're seeing, the elite Scotty Scheffler again. The biggest problem, and his last two events in the fall season here were a T9 at the Houston Open, a T3 at the WWT at Mayakoba. Those two awesome events, and he is losing strokes putting in a big way lately. -2, -4, -3.5, -4. That's 4 of his last 6 events. He's lost a monster amount of putting. So as soon as he starts putting again, he's going to rattle off. I think, it's going to be another stretch where he gets maybe 3 or 4 wins in like a 2.5 month span type thing. That could start as early as this week with that ball strike. And if he can make some putts and get a hot putter this week at lower ownership, I really love that call. I think that could end up being, like I said, you're not getting a 10%, 15% owned elite player. Maybe if he was like 11 or 12K, but if he's going to be one of the lower owned guys in the top tier, I think maybe a leverage Stars and Scrubs build, just sticking with the Stars and Scrub build that we're talking about to start things off here, is a Fitzpatrick and Scheffler. If they end up being 2 of the lower owned guys in the top tier, I think you're getting some elite ball striking there, a really good putter for Fitzpatrick, and Scheffler, if he pops with the putter, I think you're looking at a really high upside leverage combination in that top tier. And that's still going to leave you around 7,500, 7,800 for the rest of your lineup. So definitely in tune there. So something I wanted to do, I know you like the bounce build a little bit more, so I'm going to let you go below this 9K range. There's a few guys that stand out to me, and they're probably going to be the same guys that stand out to you, but I'll let you kick things off here in this, let's just call it even 7,500 to 8,900 range.
Yeah, so what I really like about the field right now is that my preferred build, I think, is going to be different. Just kind of when I pulled up, the slate, started going through it, I landed on like 4 of these guys that I really liked and ended up highlighting on my copy of the sheet as guys that I wanted to include in my core. And if that's going to be different roster construction wise, I want to grab 3 or 4 of those in this 8K range, and then maybe one up above in the 9K range, and then I can only have to play one cheaper guy below 7,500 probably in those lineups. Whereas most people are probably going to play 2 in the 9s at least. Then they're going to grab 1 or 2 in this 8, and then they're going to be forced to play 2, whether it's in the 6 or low 7. So that'll just naturally get you a little bit different. I think those are the things that you need to think about. Something I want to get better at for this year is hand building. I think a lot of times what happens with when I use the optimizer and do a 20 max is I don't build the line. The lineups don't end up being built the way correctly and what I mean by that is if I build Stars and Scrubs, I want to be deliberate about how I do that and how, since it is going to be the more popular way, play some lower on plays or maybe jam in a couple mid upper 7K guys that most people aren't going to be doing instead of just punting a 6K or something like that. But then in the balance builds where that's naturally going to get you different, you can play a touch more chalk than usual. So I think that's going to be my early season strategy. If I do 20 max, it's going to be hand building those 20 and getting when I play certain guys, I get them in there the way that I want to use them instead of just arbitrarily chucking in there 20% ownership in an optimizer, which I'm not saying you can't do what I'm talking about with an optimizer. It's just, honestly, I'm not good enough with them yet to get out what I want. So that's something that I need time to get better at. But for now, I think I'm going to stick to the hand building and build those the way I want. But the 4 guys that I'm talking about that I really, really like in this range, it starts out with Jordan Spieth, 8,200. He is the king of this place, and he is one of those guys that I'm seeing come in higher on than I thought he would. I ran the second run of ownership. He stayed around that 27, 28% range, which is not what I was expecting yesterday when I started going through the slate. I was hoping that he would come in some leverage bit lower. Yeah, that's what I was hoping, but it looks like it's going to be one that I have to do what you were talking about and just get way over the field, even though he is going to be 30%. I think, this guy is playing pretty well towards the end of the year, and the course history suits him perfectly if you look back to his good run of form in 16, 17, 18, in that range. Sung Jae is the other guy. He's the other guy with Justin Thomas that's over 30% owned. I really like him as well. And then behind that, Brian Harmon, who I'm surprised he's only coming in at 16% owned right now on that second run. Feel really good about that at 8,000. And then Victor Hovland is the other one at 8,500. Decent, ownership. But what I'm talking about as far as playing these guys in the way I want to play them is if I play 3 or even all 4 of those, how many people are actually going to do that? Most are only playing 1 or 2.
Yeah.
And if, say, Sungjae's 30%, well, how many of those are in a Stars and Scrubs build where they're not getting a Hovland, Spieth, and Harmon with them? So I feel really good about jamming those 4 as my core, maybe taking one out here and there, and then grabbing one of those guys up top in a Morikawa or Xander or even Scotty at the very top or somebody like that as my only one above 9K and getting different that way.
Yeah, so if we plug in Hovland, Sungjae, Spieth, and Harmon, you said that's leaving the 8,500. So I mean that gives you options. Like you said, I don't think a lot of people are going to have 4 in the 8K range, and that's a great way. That's something I'm going to be looking at more is the lineup construction I use this year, rather than looking at, say, the names. I'm going to look at grabbing, say, 1 from the 10, 1 from the 9, 1 from the 8, or kind of switching that up, looking at what's chalk, and then just kind of differentiating a little bit. Not so much with the high owned player, but maybe different ranges. And this lineup build that you're talking about right here that we have on the screen is very similar to what I like doing at the Masters all the time, because we have all these guys that have high win expectation, higher than normal expectation in the 8K range, even 7,500 and to mid 8K, even up to the 9K range, more win equity than we're normally used to. So you can definitely go balanced, and because you really need that winner in your lineup, obviously in GPP, but then you need a bunch of top 5s and top 10s, and I think these guys can all battle for them. Hovland seems way underpriced.
All those guys got a chance to win this thing. Yes, when you're trying to talk yourself into it, into this balanced build when everybody else is going to be playing 2 of the best odds in the field to win in a JT, Rahm, Cantlay, all those guys. When people are grabbing 2 of them, all right, you feel pretty good that Hovland and Sungjae and Spieth and even Harmon can all compete with those guys for a top 5 or a win at some point. And look, like you're plugging in, you can still grab one of those guys at the very top if you want. So
and easily and feel very comfortable about your build. So 1 in the 10. He's 99, Thomas, 4 in the 8s, and then 1 in the low 7s or high 6s, depending on which top guy, Thomas, Scheffler, Cantlay, or John Rahm, whichever one of those 4 you plug in here with those 4 balanced guys. You're still getting an elite player. You got 5 guys who have really good win equity and they can win the tournament, and then you're down here in this low 7, and I don't think it's crazy. I don't think someone outside of, say, the top 10, 15 players in this field, 20 players, let's say, even can stretch it to, are going to win. But I think a lot of these players, Seamus, Thigala, Aaron Wise, I like this week, Mackenzie Hughes, Tom Hoagie's going to be chalky down at 6,500. I think these guys definitely got top 10 potential. So if you're mixing in a win, a couple 2, 3 top 5s, a top 10, and then you still have a chance down here at another top 10 from your cheapie, I think that's a line of construction that can work, and it's probably not going to be the chalkiest way to go. So I'm definitely on board with this balance build that you're talking about. Adding on now to, let's say, the Stars and Scrubs build and kind of coming down into this low range. There's a couple guys that stand out to me, and the reason I like Stars and Scrubs and maybe jamming in, I talked about Justin Thomas, Patrick Cantley, and Matthew Fitzpatrick. So that leaves me 7,100 for my remaining three. Leaves it a little sketchy, but there's a lot of guys that I do like down here that I think can fit this build. First of all, you can come way down. I do like Luke List. Terrible form. I think he's probably going to catch some steam because he's only 6,200. I don't mind paying 6,200 for Luke List. It's these tournaments middle of the year when Luke List gets in the 8K range, mid 8K, even pushing the 9K range, where it just starts to feel a little bit crazy to pay for that ball striking that he has. But you're really, there's a lot of risk with the putting. Well, we don't have to worry about this week. Looking at the stats here, 8th in driving distance, so he fits that model. For him, with his distance, we're kind of looking at maybe the lower proximity ranges, but he's good kind of in the lower proximity ranges and the higher proximity ranges. If he is stretching it out and needs that 200 plus, he's got that long iron game. Scrambling, not too bad. Nothing else really stands out for him, but yeah, 6,200, I'll definitely consider him here. Adam Svensson, he's got a win in the fall season, so I think I consider him. Both guys that haven't played here before, moving up a little bit. A couple other guys. My favorite in the 7,500 and down is Adam Scott. T21 in 2021, not a great result, but T6 back in 2014. So he's played here. He's had some results. Looking at the DK and FanDuel, even Yahoo, he is underpriced on all three sites according to where he sits on the odds board. Had some success in the fall. He's got some distance here. He can be a good putter. I definitely like Adam Scott. He's going to be a little bit higher owned. Keegan Bradley's always a elite ball striker. He seems to have figured it out with the putting. So 7,500 seems a little cheap for him.
He's going to be low owned too.
You think Keegan's going to be low on this week? If that's the case, I'm going to do a lot of pivoting off of Adam Scott, I think.
We're showing
Keegan Bradley.
10.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, if you're getting him even at 15%, 10 to 15, I think that's some nice leverage because I think Scott probably gets in the – I haven't looked yet at the fan share, but I'm looking at the tags here. I'm thinking he's probably going to be pushing 20, Scott. So if you can get Keegan at even, 25, 30% less, I think that's great. Elite ball striking. And like I said, in terms of Keegan's putting, that's what we always made fun of him going full Keegan for, because he could really screw up. He looked like he's 5 shots clear of the cut on Friday and come in and lose about 6 strokes putting. Well, the putting recently has been pretty good. CJ Cup, he gained 2. Zozo, where he won, he would have gained probably somewhere in the range of 3 to 4 strokes putting, I'm assuming. That wasn't there was no strokes gained at that course. So we don't have that. The Sanderson finished T5. He gained 6.1 strokes putting. BMW in the playoffs, he lost 0.12. FedEx, he lost 3.4. So that was a bad one. But before that, Rocket Mortgage gained 2.2. So his putting, going back to let's even say May or June, has actually been above average. So I think we ride that train with him, especially if he's going to be lower owned. And then another guy that stands out in terms of being a little bit underpriced is Seamus Power here. He's 12th in my model. He's underpriced mostly on DraftKings. He's a +9 there. Looks like he's probably going to get some steam. He's the most tags out of this low range. T15 in his first event here, but he's coming in red hot. I think we kind of ride that form. When did he last play here? I'm going to bring that up here real quick. But he's got 3 top 5s in a row, including a win. That's at the RSM T5. Mayakoba T3 and a win at the Bermuda. So he's been his all-around game has been excellent. And I think people are going to chase that form. He's a guy that I'm probably going to pick and choose down here, who's going to be chalk, who I'm probably just going to go ahead and 2 times or 3 times. If I think he's going to be 10%, I'm probably going to have 30%, and vice versa. If he's 15%, I'm probably going to have around 45 to 50%. He's the guy I'm going to be overweight on the chalk value play this week. What do you think down here? Anyone I missed?
I think the only guy that I'll add is KH Lee.
I like that.
Played pretty good through the end of the year. Pretty low on to 7K. A big thing that I like about him too is that he played here last year. He didn't do very well, but he's seen the course, and I like the form that we saw towards the end of the year. So 7K, I'll take some shots on him as well. This is what I'm talking about too He's one that fits the Stars and Scrubs build to me, because if you play Stars and Scrubs, you're playing two of those. You're going the chalk construction. Don't come down here and just punt away Tom Hoagie or Seamus Power or both. Don't play both those guys with your chalk Stars and Scrubs, Justin Thomas and John Rahm. But so take some shots on your values. If you're going to play the chalk construction and play the Stars and Scrubs, grab two of those guys and come down here and play K.H. Lee or
Keegan Bradley.
Fairly low on Keegan Bradley. Make the pivots down low if you're going to go chalky with the Stars and Scrubs.
They're the most variance anyway, these guys down here. So go in and get in a 30 or 40%. I don't think he's going to get that high, but Tom Hoagie and Seamus Power are the two highest owned guys, even Adam Scott. You mix those three in, and they're all going to be 15 to 20% down here in this range. So relative to their price, that's high ownership, where you can get Keegan Bradley, like you said, K.H. Lee. I even think Sahith Theegala makes sense. I think, when he pops off, he's got top 5 upside, winning upside. He's going to win eventually. This probably isn't the event, but a top 5, top 10 at 10 to 12% ownership when everyone else is 20 in this range, those three guys that we talked about, I think that's a great pivot. And that goes back to what you said. If you're playing Stars and Scrubs and you're going Thomas and John Rahm together, and they're going to be two of the highest owned guys in the top tier, you definitely don't want to pair them with the chalk guys down here. You're going to be splitting with other guys. Now, conversely, if you want to play one or two of these chalk, Adam Scott, Seamus Power, Tom Hoagie, who we've kind of identified as, the top 3 highest owned value guys down here, change things up top. That's where you can mix in your Stars and Scrubs with, say, Scotty Scheffler and Matthew Fitzpatrick. Then I don't mind having two of these chalk guys down here running Seamus Power and Adam Scott together, or Adam Scott and Tom Hoagie, or vice versa. Having 2 of the 3 of the chalk value guys, I don't mind as much when you're going away from the chalk in the top tier, but combining them together, all those chalk pieces together, that's just not good GPP construction, because if it does work out, you're just going to be chopping with about 5,000 people. So,
and the last thing I'll say, I know we need to probably get out of here, but if you do, say you love Tom Hoagie or one of these cheap guys, and you want to grab and play Stars and Scrubs, that's fine. But don't play any of those guys that I mentioned that I loved in the middle. Play Hideki, who's going to be like half or a third of the ownership because so many unknowns. Because you're still going to probably play one of those 8K guys. And this is the place with so many unknowns, you probably want to take a shot on a guy like Hideki. I don't love him, but if you want to play the chalk up top and the chalk at the bottom, at least play one of the low on mid-range guys.
Yep, exactly. It's still going with guys that you like, but just kind of differentiating and trying to get a little bit lower ownership, so that when it does work out, you're not splitting with all your friends on the DraftKings lobby. Now, one player we didn't talk about kind of fits into this fading the chalk. Could be lower owned. I'm not sure where he's going to end up, but it really feels like he's going to. He's kind of in that middle range. Cameron Young, I want to know what you think of him. He's only got 6 tags. It's his first time here. He really fits the build for me because, 1, he's long off the tee. 2, he's 4th in proximity in this field last 24 rounds overall. 3rd in strokes gained approach. 2nd in par 4. And 2nd in longer par 4s, and then he's first in opportunity. Or sorry, that's Zalatoris' first in opportunities gained. Looking at Cam Young, he's 7th in proximity of 200 plus. So if he does need those long irons, he's right there. And he's also 7th in birdie or better. Looking at the last 24 rounds as well. So I think he could be low owned and could be a pivot here as well.
Excuse me. I can get behind some Cam Young. Yeah, he looks to be fairly low owned. Bomber, can score, can get hot, can shoot those 8 to 10 under rounds if he's on this week. He's one of those guys in the mid-range that can compete for a win because of that too. So I think with him being priced above Hovland and Tom Kim and Spieth and all those guys, I think that's going to naturally make him lower. So yeah, good GPP play.
Now, before we go, I just wanted to go over, I'm going to go over the tools a lot more in future videos, like I said, but I just wanted to, some of the guys that I talked about here, I've gone ahead in the FanShare Pro here, looking at this week, I've gone ahead and read the players that I like. So what I wanted to kind of show you here was once you get all the players, you've done all your research, gone through, looked at players that you want, highlighted them, you go over to build. Number of lineups, I'm going to go 20 because I usually play 20 max. You can set your min and max salary. I kind of leave that at, I usually like going 48,500, so we can leave 1,500 on the table if possible. Might need that this week just simply because of smaller field, smaller player pool. You can actually do projected ownership. So you can kind of keep your ownership down if you want to build lower owned lineups. I'm not going to mess with that here. And then what I usually do is go to auto exposures and I go just optimize to start with. And that gives me the best DK points per dollar. That sets my target exposures for my players. And then I generate lineups. So it created 20 lineups, and the accuracy in terms of what I was looking for in my target exposure, which is very, very balanced, all within that 30-35. I might tweak this a little bit, but to start out, I do like this build. My accuracy was 74% to what I wanted for my target. Then you come down here and you can start looking at your lineups. You can delete lineups. You can export these lineups. You can see what percentage they actually showed up as. So if you wanted to be really, really high on Justin Thomas, maybe go like 80% there. It's not going to let you go ahead and build that because your exposures are out. I'm now at 651. All that means is I need to start going lower on other players to get that number to 600. So that would mean probably these top tier guys I'm going to have to go a lot lower on. I don't want to go 80% on him, but we'll go 60, lower these guys to 20, lower this to 20. That should put us right there at 600. We regenerate those lineups. And naturally, we're going to get a lot more Justin Thomas. We're now up to 75% exposure in our 20 lineups. So that's just some of the ways that you can play with. Another cool option, not really relevant this week, but if there is a lot of wind in the forecast and we do have a weather split, especially on a cut event, one thing that we can do here is we can go ahead in here and we can do mostly early, mostly late, only late, and we can build our lineups that way in where it's going to look at the tee time and the tee time wave. So if we've identified, say, that the late tee times on Thursday are going to be what we want to target, we can build some lineups off of that as well. So that's a really cool option. We're going to go over a little bit more in some future videos as well. I just wanted to give you a little bit of warm up of the FanShare lineup construction tool. So if you have questions about that, make sure to hit me up in chat. You can get into our Patreon, Jaeger Bombs Fantasy Sports Discord chat for free. Check us out. You can talk to our customers, see our winning picks, get in touch with our coaches, and just get some more information if you want. I will have that link in the video description below. You can get in for free. And if you want to sign up, check out our cheat sheet, all of our picks, rankings, top bets for the week. Make sure to head over to patreon.com/JagerBombs. Sign up today. $10 a month for one sport, $20 a month for all sports. We're currently covering 10 plus sports, everything from college sports to League of Legends to all the major sports as well. Get in, check that out. Brand new PGA Tour season. Dane, I'm so happy to be back doing videos, getting really excited about golf. Let's go out there and crush it. Any final closing words?
No, I think that's it. I think we're in a good spot for the week. Talk through it. Always going to be fun, ready for a big year.
Awesome. That sounds good. Good luck, everyone. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel. A lot more videos to come, and make sure we'll see you in chat leading up to Wednesday with another look at weather, as well as our final player pools and rankings will be posted on the cheat sheet. Cheers, everyone. Have a great night.